Welcome back to The Explainer. When we look back at the grand sweep of history, it is so easy to just focus on human achievements, right? The great inventions, the sprawling empires, the massive philosophical breakthroughs. But what if I told you that some of the most absolutely crucial starting points for our modern society didn't begin in a laboratory or a parliament, but in the immediate aftermath of total devastation? Today, we're exploring exactly that. We're going to look at how historical catastrophes acted as the pivotal, undeniable catalysts that completely transformed the modern world. Okay, let's dive right into this. Can disaster actually breed progress? Throughout history, we've seen devastating events strike, leaving basically nothing but destruction and profound despair in their wake. But if we look closely at the data and the historical records, we find that some of these tragedies did a lot more than just devastate. They actually shifted the entire course of human history. They reshaped whole societies and literally altered the path of civilization. So our central thesis today is that destruction and progress are deeply, intricately intertwined. To really see how this works, we're going to time travel through three specific, highly impactful historical case studies. We'll kick things off in the ancient world with the eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 79 AD. Then we'll jump forward to the 14th century to look at the staggering global impact of the Black Death. And finally, we'll examine the Great Lisbon Earthquake of 1755. By comparing these three distinct events across different eras, you'll see exactly how the ripple effects of disaster resonated through the ages to shape the world we live in today. Here's a quick roadmap for our explainer today. We've got Section 1, the catalyst of catastrophe. Section 2, Vesuvius, preserving the past. Section 3, Black Death, birth of capitalism. Section 4, Lisbon, rebuilding human thought. And finally, Section 5, tragedy as transformation. Starting off with Section 1, the catalyst of catastrophe, seeds of change. Moving right into our first case study, Section 2. Vesuvius, preserving the past, 79 AD. On a fateful day in the 1st century, Mount Vesuvius erupted with unimaginable fury, completely burying Pompeii and Herculaneum in a matter of hours. Now, the immediate tragedy here was absolutely horrific. Entire communities literally frozen in time. And we absolutely must respectfully acknowledge the immense loss of life there. But if we zoom out and look at the long-term impact, something truly remarkable emerges. You see, that destructive ash created an airtight seal. It perfectly preserved vibrant frescoes, untouched loaves of bread, and ancient storefronts. This gave modern archaeologists an unprecedented, invaluable snapshot of daily Roman life that would have otherwise been completely lost to time. It's basically a giant historical time capsule. Next up, Section 3, Black Death, birth of capitalism, 14th century. So, shifting from a localized geological disaster to a massive, continent-spanning biological one, we arrive at the Black Death, between 75 and 200 million. I really want the sheer scale of that demographic shift to land with you for a second. That is the staggering estimated death toll. It's almost impossible for us to fully comprehend that level of massive life loss, or the sweeping social chaos that ravaged Europe during this total economic collapse. But from this complete economic collapse, a totally unexpected counter-narrative actually emerged. The long-term impact was a massive increase in social mobility and the absolute end of the feudal era. Because so many people had tragically passed away, there was suddenly this extreme scarcity of labor. And that scarcity completely overhauled European socioeconomic structures. It totally shifted the balance of power between labor and capital in ways that had literally never happened before. Let's break down exactly how this happened. Because the population dropped so drastically, surviving workers suddenly realized they had immense bargaining power for the very first time. Peasants who had previously been tied to the land can now step up and demand better pay and living conditions, which effectively put an end to serfdom. It's pretty wild to think about, but this profound demographic destruction directly forced a massive societal restructuring. It literally laid the exact groundwork for a wage-based economy and the modern capitalism we know today. Which brings us to Section 4. Lisbon, rebuilding human thought, 1755. Jump forward to 1755. A catastrophic earthquake and the fires that followed completely leveled the Portuguese capital of Lisbon, killing thousands. Naturally, the immediate response across Europe was profound horror and deep grief. But what's really interesting about this is how that grief rapidly transformed into something productive. Instead of just rebuilding exactly what was lost, humanity used this tragedy to intentionally reevaluate how we construct both our physical and our intellectual world.
Physically, as the city was rebuilt, pioneers developed the Pombaline cage. This was actually one of the world's very first earthquake-resistant architectural designs, an absolute game changer. But intellectually, the impact was just as massive. The sheer randomness of the destruction deeply challenged the prevailing optimism of the Enlightenment. It sparked the birth of modern seismology and profoundly influenced major thinkers of the time, like Voltaire and Kant. It essentially pushed philosophical thought into an entirely new era.
Finally, Section 5, Tragedy as Transformation, the Phoenix Effect. So when we synthesize our three historical case studies, Vesuvius, the Black Death, and Lisbon, a really clear pattern emerges. These historical disasters did far more than just destroy. They transformed, they forced innovation, and they broke down outdated social structures. As we see time and time again in history, in the aftermath of such destruction, we often find the seeds of progress. Even in the darkest, most difficult tragedies, human resilience isn't just about surviving, it's about evolving the very foundations of our society. To wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Based on everything we've explored today, which historical disaster do you believe had the biggest impact on our modern world? Was it the preservation of ancient history, the birth of a wage-based economy, or that major challenge to Enlightenment philosophy? I'd love for you to reflect on those historical ripple effects and feel free to share your thoughts. Thanks so much for exploring with me today, and I will see you in the next explainer.